Hey everyone, we're here with a IMG course preview. I am Kyle Roof and I'm joined by Neale Goldingay. Neale, how are you?
I'm doing good today, Kyle. How are you?
I'm great. Now, full disclosure, Neale, you and I are friends. Is this true?
That is correct. We met in Chiang Mai and go to lunch on a regular basis.
And we're both in Chiang Mai now.
That's it. That's correct.
I also found out we're both speaker buddies and that we've got the same MIDI
Yep.
microphone.
Very
Perfect.
good speaking. Thank you, Kyle, for the recommendation.
So we live in Chiang Mai, we hang out, and we have the same speakers. So now everybody knows we're very good friends. But Neale, I'm happy to have you on because you're going to be doing a course for IMG. It's going to be launching, I think, in a month or so, month and a half from this recording. But what is this course about? What are we trying to do here?
I would say that it's basically to help people improve their website speed. Also their Lighthouse scores. There are other scores in Lighthouse, which I think that could be improved very, very easily. And it's also going to look at the core Web Vitals update that Google's going to be pushing out, which is basically related to the speed of a website. There is one other factor in there, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Okay. And so the core Web Vitals, that's actually a big kind of hot issue or hot topic at the moment because Google has announced that they're going to be part of the ranking factors. So who is this course for? Is it for somebody that would actually be doing the kind of the coding? Do people need to have a code to kind of understand what we're talking about? Or is this for somebody else? Who is this course for?
At the moment, I've designed the course in a way that it's basically for anybody that owns a website or possibly manages websites. I think that there's so many different moving parts that it would be difficult to say that it's designed for people who are actually going in there, changing plugins, doing this, doing that, doing whatever. So yeah, definitely anyone that owns a website.
So I've been through the course, and what I've seen, what I like is this is nothing. I would never do any of this. Like, I'm not going to sit down and do any of this. But what I've found is that I need to be able to talk about this. I need to be able to tell the person that is doing this work for me what should they do. Or at least be able to be cognizant of like what we should be shooting for. And I think that's a big thing that this course can do.
Yeah, it's more to give you a general overview of Lighthouse, how you can use it to check your own website and then explain to your developer what you would like them to do. And also check the work that they've done afterwards, obviously.
I think that's actually a big thing. Like if somebody says, hey, the work is done, being able to even know if it's been done or not is a big, it's like when I go to the mechanic. I don't know anything about a car.
It is true, absolutely.
But I would like to be able to have a conversation about what was actually done or not. Neale, now you do this on a regular basis, right? This is your job. Like these are the types of projects that you work on here in Chiang Mai and then for companies around the world.
That's correct. I do this on my own website. I mean, that's really where I started to get quite passionate about getting good scores. I mean, obsessed would probably be the right word. I've managed to get decent scores for my clients, and it's just something that I feel that I know a little bit about and can probably pass on some kind of information to others.
Fantastic. When you kind of go through the training, what are the benefits, I guess, of doing, like getting into the page speed, getting into core Web Vitals, getting Lighthouse? What are some of those benefits that people could get out of this? Like what's the upside?
That's a really good question, because I had to think about that, and it was like, the average person with a website probably doesn't care too much what their scores are in Lighthouse. But when I thought about it, and after reading another post from, I think it was Jonathan Stark, what I realized that was basically some of the indirect benefits are you could probably get better rankings. If you get better rankings, then I would hope that you would get more income. Also possibly an increased site value if you were to sell the site at some point. Also, it'll give you a very good view of what's coming with this core Web Vitals thing and what you need to do to prepare for it.
Page speed is one of those things that's really hard to nail down. Is this an actual ranking factor or not? But something that I've found is that when you work on things around page speed and your site gets better, often your rankings improve. So it's, I think at a minimum, it's one of the things that you should be doing. I mean, just for conversions, like you want people to convert and be happy when they get on your site, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can remember back in literally the very early 2000s, you know, I used to show my website to people, to designers, and they'd be like, it's horrible, if you know what I mean, but it worked and I made money from it. I think now the thing has moved much more towards what Google would say is user experience. And I've found from my own testing, if you want to call it that, if you offer good stuff, you give them a good user experience, rankings just keep getting better, basically, without backlinks as well. You know,
right.
It's kind of weird, but it works.
Fantastic. So what is in this training? What are you providing?
Basically, we're going to talk about Core Web Vitals a lot, which is the speed. We're going to use Lighthouse as a tool. If you're not familiar with Lighthouse, it's just a browser. You can use it with any browser, but basically with Chrome's the best. And you can see a lot of things about the page, and Google will tell you some of the things that you may need to improve about your website. We're going to look at WordPress themes because they do affect speed. We're going to look at one particular plugin that I personally like. I think that it's a plugin that you can use. It's not too difficult to navigate, and it can help you on the speed quite a lot. And then we're going to have a very, very quick, we're going to touch on hosting, basically. Hosting's a funny one. I mean, we've all got opinions, but there is a difference between shared hosting and VPS, and I'm probably going to talk more about the pros and cons of VPS, because there are cons, but there's also some significant pros as well.
I love that a lot, because a question that people post all the time are on those two things. What is the fastest theme, or what should I look for in a theme to make sure that's fast? And then also, what's the best hosting, or what's the fastest hosting? So that's great. Touching on two massive topics that happen all the time. In light of that, what does somebody have to know ahead of time? What's kind of the pre-required knowledge? As I mentioned, I kind of maybe gave this away earlier. I've been through it. I don't code, and I was able to understand and get through it. But what would you say somebody needs to know ahead of time?
I think the only requirement would be that you need to have a website. If you have a website, you qualify.
Easy enough.
It's really that simple.
There's a dev term called a tech stack. You know, where what does that mean?
Tech stack is basically the things that you would need to have, you know, installed on your computer so that you could actually follow through the course and take action on some of the things that I may suggest.
So for this course, what tech stack would you need?
Again, it's very, very simple, Kyle. I'd say for myself, I will be working in the Chrome browser. I know some people do prefer, not Safari, Firefox. You can use Firefox, it's not a problem. It's pretty much the same thing, but I will be using Chrome. So if you've got Chrome installed, you're already good to go. And I think 98% of the population have that now, so that should be a good one. Google Search Console. I've noticed a few clients, they don't actually have Google Search Console installed. They usually use Analytics, but they don't link the two together. I found for myself that Google Search Console gives you a lot of information in there, and particularly related to the Core Web Vitals. So you could follow through without having Google Search Console, but with Google Search Console, it just makes life a lot easier, basically.
Okay. I know.
And that's it. That's all you need.
That's perfect. I have all those things already. And I'm confident that just about anybody watching this does. But even if they don't, it's not very tricky to get up to speed with that. So you and I have been chatting about this course as you've been working on and developing it and growing it. I know that it's been a learning process for you, and that's something that you and I have discussed. When you put a course together, you actually learn a bit because you find some knowledge gaps. You know, some things you actually like. Well, I have to teach this now. I should probably know. And then you kind of get into the weeds in some places. Like, wow, I didn't realize this. So the other, are there some things that you'd like to share that you've learned along the way in this process?
It's a good question, and it's quite funny because I know the day that you asked me, it's like you said you want to do a course. What do you think you could do? And I was like, oh, I can do Lighthouse. I've got 100% score on my own website. But when I started to go and look at everybody else's websites, I was like, wow, how do you fix that? How do you do this? It really wasn't as easy as I expected. But basically what I think what I've learned from doing this course, or actually doing this kind of stuff for quite a while now, is, I've been able to attain near perfect scores on my own website. And I've also been able to attain that for my clients. It's actually a little bit harder for clients because most of them use WordPress. But really, that's it. I can't say that I've learned a lot more than that.
Good stuff. Would you say it's fair too, if somebody's going through this, that you don't necessarily have to have 1,000% knowledge on every little thing in here? That really there are like some major things to hit, and that's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting as you kind of improve your scores and your speed and stuff like that.
Again, it's funny that you should say that. I think that there's about 60 or 70 things that are included in the Lighthouse audit, as it was. And realistically, there are probably 10 things which crop up all the time. And I have dealt with probably all of those 10 things on a regular basis.
Okay.
There's a few weird ones that pop up every now and then that I look at and I'm kind of like, I've never seen that before. But generally speaking, you don't have to do a lot to move the needle. And I think that's one of the things that I'll be talking about a lot in the course. There are some areas where it's very, very, very easy to get 100%. Unfortunately, speed is not one of those areas. But the others, I think it's nice to be able to do what we need to do, basically.
Now, in the course, I think you go through an example site, right? So, and as I understand it, it's one of the properties that I own.
That's correct.
Thank you very much. And so I think you've got some examples that you can show of kind of what we're talking about here and what the course looks like, right?
Yeah, I can do that. I prepared a really quick slideshow, cool. Nothing fantastic. Just to highlight some of the areas that we're going to be covering in the course. And I did take a look at your website. So I took a look at takedown.com, and truthfully, it actually scores quite decently, much better than a lot of websites that I look at. So you don't need to be too upset. But the performance, which again is going back to the Core Web Vitals, or let's say that Core Web Vitals will be measuring speed and performance, is not that great. Actually, it's not very good at all. So what we're going to do throughout the course is I'm going to try and get that back into the green. Getting it up to 100% is probably unrealistic. We're definitely going to fix the others so that they're going to be 100%. Those are very, very, very easy indeed. After that, we are going to use your site as an example. So this is the first time I did a video, so you all got to live with it. So anyway, the next screen is going to be, so one of the things that that I feel quite strongly about is that if you are going to preach, or I know preach is probably not the right word, but I feel like that I am sometimes, that you actually should be doing the same things for yourself. This is my website. You can see the address. Go check it anytime you want. It may not do 100% when you check it, but it'll probably do 98. I actually do what I talk about. I've seen a lot of people, or looked at a lot of things where they are telling you how fast everything is and what they should be doing. And when you go and do their own website, it's absolute crap, to be quite honest. So next up, this is your Core Web Vitals. Basically, there's 3 areas. 2 of them relate to speed. We will definitely be talking about those and trying to fix them and make things better. Then the other one is CLS. CLS is that thing when you go on a mobile phone and you scroll down and you start to read something, and then suddenly an advert jumps in and it pops around. So think of it as a website that's moving around and you can't read. Google's pretty big on that one, and it's actually quite difficult to fix on some websites, but I have found some tools which make that much easier to do. So the next point that we're going to cover in the short training would be WordPress themes. I know you may be looking at this thinking Oxygen. It's like, wow, that's just a really difficult theme to work with. I've done a little bit of research, and actually it's not that difficult to work with. I honestly believe that any VA could work with this quite as easily as anyone other. The great thing that I do love about it is, number 1, it's fast, and number 2, developers can work with it easily as well. I also have a friend that works in Chiang Mai. I think we both know him. His name is John. He's a specialist in oxygen, so he's going to walk me through that and show me anything that I need to know about it. Plugins. A lot of you will probably be familiar with WordPress Rocket, WP Rocket, excuse me. I'm doing a lot of ums there. Can you take that one out, Andrew? Thank you. The WordPress Rocket. It's one of those plugins that if you plug it in, then it does make your website a lot faster. It's not that easy to navigate, so I'm going to do a tutorial, if you want to call it that, whereby I show you exactly what you need to do once you've installed WP Rocket. For the hosting, I couldn't find a picture of hosting, so I just put one up of speed because it was free and I didn't have any copyright issues. So you get the idea. So we're going to talk a little bit about shared hosting. I will share my own personal experience and nothing else, and some things that I found online of some of the worst hosts in the world, because I still find many clients using some of them, and some of the best shared hosting that I know of and have actually used myself. And then we're going to take a quick dive into VPSs. We'll talk about Cloudways, and we'll also talk about DigitalOcean. And that's about it really for the course. It's going to be quite simple. It's not something that I feel is going to be a 6-hour in-depth course. It'll probably take you about an hour to run through it, and you'll have a very good understanding of the basics by the end of it.
Well, Neale, that's fantastic. I want to thank you so much. I'm so happy that you are doing this course. I think this is exactly what we need for the community. At a minimum, just to get a general understanding of what these things are, but then also maybe taking a step farther and getting our sites to where they need to be. So again, thank you so much. I appreciate you doing this, and I appreciate your time.
Kyle, thank you so much for having me on, and thank you so much for giving me the chance to do this. I really appreciate it, and I hope that everybody gets just a little tiny thing out of it.
I'm sure they will. Again, so so this course will be launched exclusively in IMG, and we'll see you there. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Kyle. See you soon.